39, and this is from the SAT number 9, April 2017. And the question says, which statement best describes the relationship between the views expressed in the two passages? So this is sort of like a big picture question where we have to understand what is the general argument between the two passages, and we have to decide what's the relationship between those two arguments. And this text here happens to be a little more confusing. Some of the language is a little more challenging, so it can be hard to know exactly what the point of each passage is, but let's try to break it down a little bit. So this little blurb up here is going to tell us, just give us some basic context for the discussion of the passage. And we know that both of these passages are addressing the new Constitutional Convention, which was a convention that got together to create a constitution that was meant to replace the Articles of Confederation, which was an earlier form, sort of systematic form of government in the United States. So the two views of either passage, we kind of have to take a comprehensive look at the entire passage. For the intro for each of these, don't really tell us too much directly. However, what we should get is that passage 1 in general is not in favor of the new Constitutional Convention. He's more in favor of the older Articles of Confederation. So here he says that if a wrong step be now made, the republic may be lost forever. If this new government will not come up to the expectation of the people, they shall be disappointed. Here he says that this is a consolidated government, and that the danger of this new consolidated government is to his mind very striking. So he's talking here about the Constitution, how it's creating this, it's taking away from states' rights, so it's becoming a little more consolidated, and that's a danger. He says he has the highest veneration for those gentlemen within the Constitutional Convention. However, he thinks that they're wrong because they're saying that we're talking from the people's perspectives, whereas he views states as the soul of the Confederation. So he thinks the perspective of the states is the more fundamental one, not the perspective of the people. And here he finishes by saying, you must therefore forgive the solicitation of one unworthy member to know what danger could have arisen under the present Confederation. Essentially, he's asking what's wrong with the Confederation that we have now. And then he says, what are the causes of this proposal to change our government? So what's the point in trying to change our government? What we have already with the Confederation is good enough. So passage 2 takes a almost opposite stance towards passage 1. He first starts off by saying the author of passage 2, at passage 1, Mr. Henry, is uneasy at this proposal of changing the government. Then he talks about the objection which passage 1 brings up about we the people, and he basically dismisses it. He says that who but the people have a right to form government. So his sort of answer to passage 1 is, so what? So what if they speak about who we the people, because it's the people themselves who have the right to form government. And here he says the power of convention is doubted. This is another point passage 1 brings up, but he says, what is the power? It is to propose, not to determine. So here he thinks that the convention is well within its rights to create a new constitution, to propose, not just to determine. Then he comes down here by saying that he takes this other objection. This was the objection that the Confederation is the thing that brought us through this last war. And he says it wasn't that Confederation, but it was the common spirit of America and not that insignificant paper. So basically the relationship between the two passages is that passage 1 takes a negative view towards the Constitutional Convention and a positive view towards the Articles of Confederation. He basically thinks that they're a good document that doesn't need to be changed, whereas passage 2 completely disagrees. He thinks that the Articles of Confederation should be replaced. He thinks that the Constitutional Convention is a good thing and that they're well within their rights to propose this new government. So we want an answer choice that's going to express that. So let's look through the options that we have. So A says that Henry and Pendleton both disagreed with the conclusions of the Federal Convention. And this is half true because we know that Henry disagrees with the conclusions of the Federal Convention, but Pendleton doesn't. Pendleton is more in support, so for that reason we can get rid of A. Answer choice B says that Henry and Pendleton held similar beliefs about the new Constitution. And this is also incorrect because they're split in their beliefs. Henry thinks that the Constitution is not a good thing. He actually thinks that it's sort of signaling the downfall of the country, that if things aren't fixed, if the right decision isn't made, that there's going to be, what does he say up here? If there's a wrong step, the Republic may be lost forever. So they don't have the same view of the Constitution, so we can get rid of B. C says Henry asked questions that Pendleton admitted he could not answer. This is not anywhere in the passage. One, we don't really see Henry asking too many questions. He does ask a couple questions about why the convention thinks that they can speak from this perspective of we the people. And Pendleton nowhere admits that he can't answer them. He actually directly addresses them in the second paragraph. Here, he directly addresses those questions, as well as some of the other objections. So C is not correct, which is going to leave us with answer choice D, which says that Pendleton disagreed with most of the points made by Henry. This is very simple. It's a very general answer choice, and it matches our own understanding of the passage, where Pendleton pretty much takes Henry to task point by point, dismissing his objections. So answer choice D is going to be our answer for question 39.